tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo saranto suchedoye olahari samyao sanputoshe.
Namo sadanto suchedoye alahari samyao sambuddhoshe.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. 师父上人各位师兄大家阿弥陀佛 Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture today. My name is Heng. It is Sunday, January 18th, here in the Gold Coast of Queensland, and we're about to continue our series of looking into the experiences of Sudana, our pilgrim, who is becoming a Buddha in one lifetime. So let's continue by invoking spiritual presence, inviting the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Avatamsaka assembly to draw near. Here we go. Furthermore, we would like to respectfully acknowledge the Kombo-Mary people, the Ugambi language region as traditional storytellers and custodians of the land where our monastery is located. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. 那就说我们恭敬地承认Ugambi语族的Kombo-Mary人是我们寺院所在地所传统的叙事者和守护人。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬，并且向所有从来没放弃主权的第一民族的原住民致敬。All right, here's our beautiful bell. Let's see here. We got. How did that happen? Let's move that back where it belongs. A little bit of slide adjusting here. Here we go. Save that. All right. Bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. all throughout the triple world, the wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000劫内，佛法扬万亿国中，共寻其法界和平，与一帮谈后者。Okay, there goes our preliminaries. Thank you all for joining. We're in chapter 39, it's called Entering the Dharma Realm, Ru Fa Jie Ping. And Sudana, our young man, our pilgrim, is meeting 53 teachers. That's what he's about. He's journeying, he's traveling. And he has met teacher number 6. Teacher number 6 is a monk whose name is Hai Chuang Bicho, Ocean Banner, Bhikshu Ocean Banner. He's a monk. This monk, each of these teachers has a special technique, a special gift, a special Faman, Dharma technique, Dharma method that they want to pass on to him. This teacher can enter samadhi. He's a meditator. Oh boy, is he a meditator. And in the process of his meditation, he's transformed his whole body. So when they say Ru Ding, you enter samadhi, that's kind of the rough translation. It could also be translated as merge with, or integrate with, or become one with. So this samadhi has a special quality, which is from your body, you can emit clouds of different kinds of beings. And there are 14 different clouds that come out of his different parts of his body, from his feet all the way to the crown of his head. And they correspond partly to the Tianlong Babu, the 8 divisions of spiritual Dharma protectors. There's 8 of those, but 14 kinds of beings. So there's more than just the Tianlong Babu. We've come now to the Bodhisattvas. That's where we are. Last week we did the Devas of the Brahma heaven. Before that we did Chakra, the gods from the heaven below the Brahma heavens, below the realm below the Brahma realm. And so now we come to the Bodhisattvas. And anybody who has been around Master Shenhua, our founder, our teacher, the Bodhisattva path is something he talks about a lot. And as I've progressed through my experiences in the Buddhist world, there aren't too many other places that do talk about the Bodhisattvas the way Master Hua did. So okay, what is it about Bodhisattvas? Paramitas, Bolomi. Paramitas are the key to the Bodhisattva path. When you hear about the Four Noble Truths, Siddhifa, that's the key to what? Arhats. This kind of sages who already entered a nirvana, their birth and death is over for them, so they have succeeded in cutting off transforming desire. But they haven't developed their nature to the fullest. We hear about another kind of being, which are called Pracheka Buddhas, Bijirfo, sometimes called Du-je, other times called Yuan-je, solitary awakened, or awakened to conditions, or by conditions. They are what? How do they wake up? They wake up based on the 12 links, 12 因缘法, this idea that all things in existence whatsoever come about only when conditions lead on. Conditions dissipate, disappear, the thing disappears. So we have Arhats with the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, Siddhifa, Bajang Dao. We have Pracheka Buddhas who get enlightened according to the 12 links. They contemplate those and they see, they wake up. That kind of unlocks a key to reality. But bodhisattvas have a dharma that is uniquely theirs. It's called paramitas. These are ways that help the bodhisattvas wake up, and then they use them to help others wake up. That's the key. All right? So that's what we're going to find out. We touched on them a little bit last week, but we only got to the first couple. So we're going to go all the way through, then come back and talk about bodhisattvas, tell some stories about them, sing a song, and then today also, anybody who has a question, you'd like to pose a question, ideally about the Avatamsaka Sutra or about your cultivation, Buddha Dharma, please go ahead. I'd be happy to give my thoughts about it. Let's see here. We have friends here from Fremont, California, near the Bay Area. Where else? Let's see here. We've got, oh, there we go. We have friends in Vancouver, in Shanghai, Alameda, in Heilongjiang, Montreal, Shanghai, Oregon, Malaysia, Bay Area, Taipei, Oklahoma, Oakland. Where else? Beijing, Tangshan, that's in Hebei. Where else? Harbin, where else? Yunnan, oh, out in the far southwest. All right. Anhui, Liaoning, Tangshan, Shenzhen, down near Hong Kong. Liaoning, Sydney, okay, Xi'an, Shandong, Jinan, okay, Jixi, that's in Heilongjiang, Shanghai, Beijing, Suzhou, where else? Lots of friends in China. Excellent. Zhejiang, Quanzhou, let's see here. Oh, Yingfang, Huanyin. Let's see here. That is, where is that? Okay, Jilin, all right. Harbin, Huainanshi. Beijing, Tangshan, lots of friends from Beijing today. Lots of northerners are interested in the sutra. Okay, Harbin, Jiangsu, Da'an, okay, Xinjiang, oh, way out west, okay, Zhuhai, Jixi, Harbin, Liaoning, where else? Shouji from那个地方. Let's see here. Shuang'ushan, okay. Heilongjiang, Shandong, Jiangsu, Henan, and Liaoning. Wow. Certainly, Manchuria, Dongbei, produces the most interest in this lecture series, probably because our teacher came from Shandong, from Dongbei as well. All right. What about our text? I'm going to read it right now. I will give you a line and you give it back. We'll go down to the bottom and do that much again, repeat that much, then do the next page, then talk about bodhisattvas as a topic. Okay, here we go. Right there. Okay, I'll give you a line, you give it back. Feel free at home if you'd like to recite along. Here we go. 从其头上出无量佛，刹为陈数。给诸菩萨众，悉以相好，庄严其身，放无边光，说种种行。所谓 ，OK, here we go. 赞叹布施，令舍钱贪，得众妙宝，庄严世界。Okay, that's one. 称扬赞叹，持戒功德，令助众生，永断诸恶，助于菩萨，大慈悲戒，说一切有，悉皆如梦。Okay, that's two. 说助欲乐，无有自味。 令入众生，离烦恼苦，说人入力，令遇诸法，心得自在。Good job, thank you for that. Here we go. Bodhisattvas came from his head, as many as the dust particles in limitless Buddha kshetras. Fine hallmarks adorned their bodies, which shone with a boundless light. They taught many practices, specifically, and here comes the list. They praised the practice of giving, which makes beings let go of stinginess and greed, and to be reborn in a world adorned with many wondrous jewels. They praise the excellent virtues of holding precepts, which makes beings turn away from evil forever and abide in a bodhisattva's precepts of kindness and compassion. They spoke of the stages of existence as a dream. They spoke of how desires and delights are flavorless, which makes beings leave the bonds of affliction. They spoke of the power of patience under insult, which gives them mastery amid dharmas. Okay, so those of you who are familiar with this style of Buddhist practice will recognize the 6 paramitas in there. We did three out of 6. Giving, precepts, patience, those 3. And go back to the top here, we've now reached the bhikshu, who's the meditator, who's in samadhi, his head. From his head came bodhisattvas. How many? Dust particles in limitless Buddha lands, that many. The bodhisattvas showed up, and fine hallmarks adorned their bodies, which shone with a boundless light. In other words, they looked really good. They looked so handsome, so beautiful, so attractive, so fit and well addressed, well presented, that not only did, if you looked at them, not only did you notice that thing, that they look really, really good, but there's a light that comes from them. Sometimes, do we have a word for that? We do, we call it charisma. And sometimes movie stars or celebrities or politicians, people who are used to being in the public eye, when they show up, it's kind of like every eye goes to them. They're attractive. They just draw your attention. But there's an entire career for people who do makeup, people who prepare movie stars, celebrities, performers to attract the eye. You can do it with makeup, with powder, with rouge, with color, with pencil, etc. You can do it you can actually change the physical body, plastic surgery, to fill up your lips, to thin your eyebrows, to change the shape of your nose, to change the shape of your eyes, etc. So there are lots of ways to do it externally. These bodhisattvas shine from within. Without makeup, they shine. Their charisma is not external. It doesn't come out of a jar. It doesn't come out of a tube or a pencil. They shine from within. And maybe in your life you have met somebody who is that way. My story that I always tell is my high school vice principal in Toledo, Ohio, public high school. His name was Don Sharp. Don Sharp was an ex-Marine, and he had eyebrows that looked like a rabbit's ears. He had these big eyebrows. And Don was a former Marine, and he was fit. His body looked like it was made of steel. And he wore a suit. It was not a suit, he wore a sport coat and a tie that it looked like bullets would bounce off it. It looked bulletproof. He was perfection in his personal appearance. His shoes were spit shine. He was a Marine, even though he was a high school assistant principal. And he had a light in his eye. as he would walk down the hall, and people, even the bad kids, the greasers in our school, we didn't call them greasers, we call them hoods, from hoodlums, right? The hoodlums would drop their gaze and kind of merge onto their locker when Mr. Sharp walked down the hall. They got, don't look at me, you know, because once his gaze hit you, if you were out of shape, he would just look at you, one look, and you'd think, I got it, okay, I'll straighten up. You know? He had that kind of character strength, and yet his heart was soft. And if you met his criteria, he would nod. He would look at you and go, like that, and you felt like you were floating on a cloud because you passed his muster. That was Don Sharp. He was married to his wife for 50 years and just was everything that you wanted in a role model for young men and women growing up, particularly young men, because he was tough, and yet he was fair and kind. All of those qualities, and particularly his eyes, his gaze was something that you did not mess with. So these bodhisattvas were the same. They shone with a boundless light. And notice this, they taught many practices. So I want to stop here for just a minute. The Chinese was, let's see, Shuo Zhong Zhong Heng, right here. First of all, they taught, because bodhisattvas do a lot with language, with words. That's how they take us across, is they teach us about Zhong Zhong Heng practices. We're now at the Bodhisattva path, and the thing that many people complain about when they ask me questions about our woman zong, you know, the Zong Pai, Pusa Dao Chan Zong, our school, you could say, is how come there are 84,000 practices? How come 84,000 Dharma doors? What's that all about? True, that's our school. It's because bodhisattvas cultivate not just for a lifetime, but for lifetimes. The thing about bodhisattvas is they come back on their vows. They come back on their vows. And they during those lifetimes, they go through all these different practices, each one of which, although it's got a formal outside, like now you're bowing, well, that's a practice. Now you're being a donor, you're a great hufa, you're a benefactor, that's a different practice. Oh, now you are praising, you focus on, you stay in the Buddha hall and chant, you memorize text, that's a different practice, right? Although each of these practices has an external activity, it also stimulates a different part of your nature. Bodhisattvas are one step away from Buddhas. Buddhas have brought their entire nature to light. Bodhisattvas close to it, but not yet. They're still in the practice of uncovering all of the ignorance that covers their nature. That's why they need all these different practices. Kind of like a sculptor who is chiseling marble off a block of marble. The sculpture isn't done until the figure inside the marble is completely revealed by the chisel of the carver, the sculptor. So the bodhisattvas are working on the head, the hand, the heart, the feet, the body, the toe, up and down. They're working with these practices on different parts of their nature. And it could take a lifetime. You might be a Chan meditator for lifetimes. You come back later, you are a devotional person. You work on your xin, your faith, and your recitation. So that's why we have 84,000. Bodhisattvas aren't done for a long time. Earth store. How long is Earth store bodhisattvas going to be in the hells? He says, when they're empty. How long, when is that going to be? Oh, I'm in no hurry. I'll be down there for a long time. And he is a 10th stage bodhisattva. He's got one step away from Buddhahood, but he stopped there. He didn't go on. So what kind of practices does it take for a bodhisattva to stay in the hells? What kind of patience? So the paramitas now, this is the general statement, isn't it? Shuo zhong zhong heng. They taught many practices. Specifically, he says, now we'll get the details. So the many practices often come down to 6. They say liu du wan heng. 6 paramitas, 10,000 practices. So that's what this list comes from. Okay, number 1, they praised giving. When you are generous, you let go of things. You're not stingy, you're not greedy. And when you are reborn, your world is full of wealth. It sounds counterproductive, counterintuitive until you think about it. When we say, if you want to have a lot, give a lot. But it's true. These beings who practice giving, 布施波罗蜜, dana paramita, that first giving, things come in and things go out. They are busy receiving it with their hands and giving with their hands. And as a result, in the future, they have a lot, abundance. Abundance. The opposite is also true. If things come in and you cling to them, and you stop them because you're afraid there won't be any more, the result is what? Things don't come in. Scarcity. So, seems counterintuitive until you think about it. And then, oh, that's right. So, they are, the more they give, the more they are able to give. They're able to let go. And when you empty out, because of you've been giving and being generous, things come to you. Okay. Next, praise the virtues of holding precepts, 持戒. And notice the verb every time, praised. Here it is. They, says, 所谓, 说种种行. They taught many practices, praising giving, praising holding precepts, teaching, 说一切, teaching happiness. So, what these bodhisattvas are doing is teaching. Doesn't have to be always with words. They can do it by example, but they're showing. They're teaching by doing. They are 以身作则. They're demonstrating how to do it. Better to do it with pictures than with words, right? But they will do it with words. Holding precepts. When they hold precepts, you leave evil doing behind, and you stay in the bodhisattva's kindness and compassion. I mentioned last week, I really like about Buddhism that evil is clear. We know what it is. 3 with the body, 4 with the mouth, 3 with the mind. And that's not just Buddhism. The 10 Commandments have 4 out of the 5 precepts. The Holy Quran has the same list. Patanjali's yoga aphorisms in Hinduism has the same list. So people all agree, but Buddhism is clear about it. And if you can stop the evil, you're doing the good. And they say existence is like a dream. So while we're in this dream, do good, avoid evil. 诸恶莫作，众善奉行. Basic teachings. Do good, avoid harm, avoid evil. Okay, then they say, desires and delights are flavorless, and this way you can get free. Why does this come up? It's because what leads us into killing, stealing, lusting, lying, and intoxication is often the thought that, I'll try that. I'd like to try something a little different just to get the flavor, right? I just try it. And then step by step by step, you find yourself breaking precepts. So he says, desires and delights are flavors. Why is it true? The things that taste themselves have no intrinsic nature. Your tongue, your nose, your skin, right? These are temporary. It's just coming together. If we use them to go out and kill animals for food, for example, well, there's karma involved. Once we kill the animal so we can eat its flesh, we've made the animal upset, and we've made a tie with them, so which we will have to repay. So if we can say, give up the flavor of meat because I kind of like the way my body runs when I add harmless food, plant-based food, then that's what we want. That's the wisdom of the precepts, right there. And we can leave the ties of affliction from the hatred of the animal that we've killed in order to eat it, for example. Okay? Next one, patience under insult, mastery amid dharmas. We've got a, coming up next, in the next teacher coming up is a expert on patience. We'll get there at the end of this chapter, but we learn about the power of patience. Mastery amid dharmas. That is to say, if we are able, when people are losing their temper, to be calm, you get a power, you get a strength that no emotion can defeat. Okay, we are going to move on down. Now, what do we have next? Let's do a preview here. Leaving anger and hatred, that's patience. Vigor, next one, also called strength. Then what? Dhyana, Chanding, meditation. Then what? Prajna paramita. Now, that would usually end the 6. We are, however, in the Avatamsaka Sutra, we got 4 more. We got 4 more paramitas. So I want folks to see these so that you can confidently appreciate the Bodhisattva path and recognize the Avatamsaka's version, the perfection of the Bodhisattva path, all 10. All right, coming up. Here we go. I'll give you the Chinese, you give it back. Here we go. Ready? Here we go. 赞今四山，令诸众生，理嗔恚垢，起对治行，觉畜生道。Good. 探精进行，令其远离世间放逸，皆悉勤修无量妙法。Okay, another one. 又为赞叹参波罗蜜，令其一切心得自在，又为演说般若波罗蜜，开示正见，令诸众生要自在智，拔诸见毒，拔诸there we go, one more time. 拔诸见毒。Oh, okay, that's our 6. All right, take a look here. What have we got? Boom. Boom. Here we go. Lecture text. No, it's right there. That's what I want. Okay, there it is. Ascetic enlightenment. Chan Huayan. did it up above. Scrolling, scrolling. Don't go away now. Scrolling, scrolling. Picture ocean banner. Okay, this is all about the gods. What does Buddhism do with gods? I'm looking for, and this is a lot of research here. I'm looking for the paramitas that I added up above. Okay, authority. Scrolling, sorry about this. Should have found it beforehand. Okay. This was chakra, Brahma. Still scrolling. Buddhist cosmology, this is chakra. This is 2 weeks ago. So Indra, chakra. This is the development of chakra, the gods, chief among gods in his character over the years, over the millennium in Hinduism, and then the Buddhist version of chakra. Here we go. Tiana. Well, you know what? I'm not finding it. Here, we'll go search, find, paramita, prajna paramita, next, paramita, okay, not there. In that case, here we go. Paramitas, P-A-R-A-M-I-T-A, paramitas. One, we know, is giving, also known as generosity. That's a perfection. Paramita is also called perfections. Perfection of giving, dana. 2, okay, 0, 1, 0, 2. 0, 2 is precepts, known as shila, shila paramita. Number 3 is patience, known as shanti. 4th is vigor, sometimes called strength. S-T-R-E-N-G-T-H. Virya. Okay, 5 is chan or dhyana, paramita, meditation. Then number 6 is wisdom, but contemplative wisdom, prajna. Okay, here they are. These are to be consistent here, dhyana. Okay, so here we are. These are the 6 that everybody talks about. And these are considered to be what bodhisattvas use. And what I wanted to point out is that people somehow have the idea that Buddhism is for Buddhists kind of give up the world, go off into a cave, go off onto a mountaintop, and give up the world. They leave people behind. They seek a selfish exit from the world, self-serving, nirvana, which to many people, because they heard the word extinction connected to nirvana, going extinct like a dinosaur, so they think, well, Buddhists must just be really down on the world. Yeah? Misanthrope. Yeah, so there's the Jyeshu, right? And there is reason for that perspective, because the Arhat pretty much as a model in the process of cutting off desire and seeing birth and death as an enemy and the world as a prison, the Arhat does that. He says, I'm out of here. As soon as I can, as quickly as I can, I'm gone. The Bodhisattva path is very different. And in 95 out of 100 books about Buddhism, introducing Buddhism, you will not find the Bodhisattva path explained. And it's sad. The number one most popular introduction to Buddhism text for most of the 20th century was by a Sri Lankan monk named Walpola Rahula. Rahula was R-A-H-U-L-A, and it was What the Buddha Taught. That was the title of his book. And it's a wonderful book. I mean, it's really clear. It's in English, and he is knowledgeable, and you get a good background for the southern tradition, for Buddhism of India, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, Burma, where Pali Sutras are the source. And for that tradition, for that background, excellent book. Many 20th century English language scholars in the West read that book and followed the sutras that are described and all. So the problem is there's no Bodhisattva path. There's no Mahayana at all in that. Because, why? Well, where were the teachings of the Bodhisattva path and the Mahayana preserved and cultivated? China. And what do we know about China after 1949? Monks didn't come out. So there was no way for the Bodhisattva path, the Avatamsaka Sutra, the Shurangama Sutra, the Vajraprajna Paramita Sutra, the Saddharma Pundarika, the Lotus Sutra, Fa-Hua-Jing. Where were they going? They didn't come out. Yes, they did go to Korea, they did go to Japan, they did go to Vietnam, but scholars didn't find English translations of the sutras and the teachings to introduce them to the West. So here we are. Here's Master Hsuan Hua, our teacher, came to America, and if he had had hair, his hair would have been on fire trying to bring these teachings to the world. That is to say, every night, 90 minutes, explaining the sutras, telling us to translate, encouraging us, giving us the tools so we could translate. And the Buddhist Text Translation Society issued an unending stream of English language Dharma texts. So if you didn't run into the publications of BTTS, you still, maybe you saw the Sixth Patriarch Sutra, that was there. If you read Jack Kerouac's books, Gary Snyder's poetry, you'd run into Chan and Zen. Zen was attractive, but it didn't have a literary tradition. Zen was kind of anti-intellectual. Just go sit. Shikantaza, said Dogen Zenji. Only pay attention to your sitting. If you meet the Buddha, kill the Buddha, burn the sutra, right? So it was hard to find any of the teachings on the Bodhisattva path. So here we are with this wonderful Avatamsaka Sutra, and here are the paramitas, which are the hallmark of the Kookaburra Dharma. Perfect, full-throated Kookaburra. What is the Avatamsaka Bodhisattva's teaching? It's paramitas, perfections. How do you practice them? Get engaged with living beings, find out what their nature is, and give them an antidote to round out their nature. So, what did the sutra just say? It said the Bodhisattvas praise giving because living beings can be stingy and don't know how to give. So they praise and they practice generosity so that when we are attached, we learn the joy of giving. When they meet living beings who are breaking the rules of humanity by killing, stealing, lusting, lying, they praise precepts and say, if you want to be delighted and light and clean and pure and free of nightmares, bad dreams, and bad conscience, here's the way. Build your behavior around this path that takes you to the top of Nirvana Mountain. It's called Shila Paramita. Okay? You go, oh, okay. You have to get engaged, connected to living beings before you know how to supply the antidote. So bodhisattvas are like doctors. They look at us, where are we stuck, where are we afflicted? They prescribe an antidote. That's what the 对治法, right? A method that rounds out the nature, that keeps us from doing the things that we get stuck in. If we are angry, they prescribe patience. If we are lax and slovenly or scattered, they say, apply yourself. If we are unable to focus, they say, Chan meditation. And if we are tied up in wrong views, they say, here's Zheng Jian, right views, wisdom, Prajna Paramita. So this is the practices of the Bodhisattva, and you can only practice these if you are connected in a relationship with living beings. You're not out there in the cave. You're not out there only on the top of the mountain. You have to come back and get connected before you can help living beings wake up, help us wake up. So it's a very different picture of Buddhism in the Mahayana, and those textbooks to this day, still, if you go to the average high school or college and they have a world religion class, when they get to Buddhism, if you hear the name Bodhisattva, that's progressive, that's unusual. Mostly Buddhism is all about suffering. The Buddhas suffer a lot, right? So the Four Noble Truths. Currently, there's something very wonderful happening in the Buddhist world, which is the monks who are walking for peace from Fort Worth, Texas to Washington, D.C. Social media is just overflowing with people writing about, we met the monks. And so that's a current in the United States right now. There's an example of bright light of the Dharma. I think there's 18 monks and a dog who are on foot, walking through the winter in America's South. They made it to North Carolina yesterday, and wherever they go, crowds of people come out and just weep tears of joy to see Buddhist monks on foot, walking through at a brisk pace, asking for nothing, teaching people to be peaceful. And it's especially because America is in a time of transition right now, and there's lots of anxiety. So when the monks come through and provide an example of a life that avoids, that has an alternative to struggle and conflict, people are responding from their hearts with joy. So I think you've seen the picture of Charleston, South Carolina, where 18 monks and a dog walked through, and thousands of South Carolinians came out from all backgrounds, all religions, all races, all walks of life, and said, I want to give you a flower, and you tie a string around my wrist, and I feel like I've been reborn. Right? So, very powerful example of how, with very few words and teaching simply, the monks are walking through the winter with bare feet, and people say, this is what we were looking for. Big response to the monks' peace walk now, doing Buddhism proud. Okay, so what point have I made? The two. One is that the Mahayana needs to be explained for people to understand another side of Buddhism, which is very attractive in the West and in the 21st century worldwide. And two, that this Bodhisattva path involves something very different than the world-rejecting, antinomian kind of misanthropic view of birth and death is an enemy and the world is a poison. Bodhisattvas vow to stick around. Even if the world is a prison, they're going to stay and lock themselves in until the prison's empty. That's the Bodhisattva path. It's what drew me. That's why I found it when I was an impressionable 14-year-old and stayed with it to this day. Okay, let's get back to our text here. And here we go. We got 4 more paramitas to go. Oh my. Okay, we got to Prajna Paramita, the right points of view. Okay, do the last 4 here. Can I give you a line and you'll give it back to me? Here we go. Here we are. Okay. 又为演说，随顺世间，种种所作，令助众生，虽离生死，而与诸趣，自在受生。Okay, that's number 7. Number 8. 又为实现神通变化，说寿命自在，令助众生发大誓愿。Okay, that's number 8. Number 9. 又为演说，成就总持力，出生大愿力，静至三昧力，自在受生力。Okay, last one. 又为演说，种种诸智，所谓。Okay, we've got just this much. Here we go. 普知众生，诸根智，普知一切，心恒智，普知如来，实力智，普知诸佛，自在智，如是所作，周遍法界。Alrighty. Last 4 paramitas. Here we go, starting right here. They also spoke of acting in harmony with the world, which makes beings, even those who gain freedom from birth and death, to be reborn with self-mastery in the various destinies. They also displayed spiritual powers and transformations, and explained self-mastery over one's lifespan, which makes beings express great vows. They also spoke to them of the accomplishment of the power of dharani, the power of making great vows, the power of purifying and regulating beings by means of samadhi, and the power of being reborn with self-mastery. They also explained the many modes of wisdom, that is, the wisdom of knowing the being's sense faculties, the wisdom of knowing the activities of beings' minds, the wisdom of knowing the thus come one's 10 powers, and the wisdom of knowing the sovereignty of the Buddhas. Thus their deeds fill the Dharma realm. Good. 07 is vows. 08 is expedience. 09 is strength. 10 is knowledge, not wisdom, because we got wisdom up above. Okay, is expedience number 7. I think I got these backwards. Here we go. Okay, expedience is upaya. Vows is pranidhana, some people, pranidhana. Pranidhana. Strength is bala. Knowledge. Sam, can you find the Sanskrit for vows? Is it pranidhana? Check that out. What's the Sanskrit for vows? Bodhisattva's vows. And this is jnana. Okay, it's paramita number 8 from the Avatamsaka. So here's the whole list. And it's only the Avatamsaka that typically will give us 10. We've got to have 10 to be the completion, perfection. So let's take a look here. So here is harmony with the world, makes beings, even those who are free from birth and death, meaning arhats, to be reborn with self-mastery in the various destinies. Harmony with the world means you accord. That's what is pranidhana? Okay. Upaya. The thing about upaya is you look at the time, you look at the place, and you look at the person, and you come up with a way to help him or her get past where they're stuck. That's an upaya. It's a method. You put on a play. You do a show so that you can nudge them, entice them, scare them, tease them into taking that next step. Okay, next, spiritual powers and transformations, explaining self-mastery over your lifespan so that you make great vows. Here it is, the perfection, the paramita of vows. I talked a few weeks back about that strange experience that we had at Gold Mountain Monastery when spontaneously monks and nuns started to make vows. And it was just, not everyone did, but those who did, really did. It was in the 70s. And they said, I want to do this with my life, in life after life, you know. And Master Hua would not always agree. Sometimes he would say, do you think they can do that? Sounds like an exaggeration. I think you're taking too big a bite, you know. And people, well, okay. Sometimes Sherpa would say, I think you're doing that so we'll think you're really strong, you're really wonderful, you're really courageous. You can't do it. That's phony. Be real. People would shrink back. But other times he would say, what do you think? And then he would go, try your best. And for that moment, people were absolutely sincere that they would make an incredible vow for a direction for their life, right? Okay, look at the powers here. Li, bala, power of dharani, power of vows, power of purifying through samadhi, power of being reborn with self-mastery. That's strength. Li, bala. So, this is fangbian, this is yuan, this is li, this is zhi. Kinds of wisdom. If we were retranslating the sutra, this would be knowledge. Knowledge of knowing sense faculties, the knowledge of activities in their minds, knowing the 10 powers, and then knowing Buddha's tzat. The reason being, here we have zhihui, prajna. That's a different kind of development of the nature than zhi. So we're trying to introduce the word jnana more in our translations and make it an English word. We'll see if that's successful or not. We may have to go back to making this another kind of wisdom. It's the 10th paramita, the 10th perfection. Okay, there they are. Those are the Bodhisattva's perfections. And this is how the Avatamsaka Sutra gives us Bodhisattvas. Now, coming up next, I want to introduce this next week. We have the crown of the head, the very top, the last group out of 14. And who is it? It's thus come ones. So Buddhas come from the head of the Bhikshu ocean banner. And the description is quite amazing. Look at the Chinese. There is a pattern. It's 为一切世间普语法语. For everyone in the world, they everywhere rain down Dharma rain. Okay? So it goes through all these different previous groups and rains down Fa Yu, Dharma rain, a different kind for every group. Bodhisattvas, all these different kinds of bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas who've had their crown anointed. Bodhisattvas who are Dharma princes, Dharma kings. Bodhisattvas who are Kumara, like Sudana. They rain down a different kind of Dharma rain. That's coming up. So it's like, whoa, and look, it's really long. And then, for all the different beings in the different realms, we get the Tathagatas come forward and give other kinds of teachings. Yakshas, Gandharvas, Asuras, Garudas, Kinnaras, all of the Tianlong Babu, beings in the hells, animals, King Yama. These Tathagatas coming out of the head of the crown of the head do all that. Then he sends out nets of lights, and then, guess what? The bhikshu comes out of samadhi. Sudana looks at him for a day, for a night, 7 days, 7 nights, half a month, 6 months. Sudana stares at him for 6 months. He's like that. He probably doesn't close his mouth, right? And then 6 more days. 6 months and 6 days. Finally, Bhikshu Ocean Banner comes out of samadhi. So that's what we got ahead of us. There's quite a chunk left. All of the Dharma rain. Now, what is the Dharma rain? It's the 10th stage. So we just finished explaining the 10 stages chapter, the 10 grounds chapter. The 10th stage, the 10th ground is Fa Yu, right? It's the Dharma rain. And it's the thing of Buddhas. So we think, rain of Dharma. Rain comes down, it moistens, it gives life. What is that talking about? Dharma rain. Okay. Now, our teacher did a lot about bodhisattvas, but there's one in particular where he wrote an essay about bodhisattvas. And I've been looking at this essay for 50 years, and I have to say, it's a challenge still. Shifu has some of his writings that are really challenging, and one of them is, of course, Yujobai, the White Universe. That poem, Shifu, it's a sonnet, the Chinese poetry form. And Master Hua said, I think probably there's nobody alive right now who really understands it. He said in the future somebody will show up who's going to understand White Universe, Yujobai. There's another one of those poems, or it's not a poem, it's an essay, which I find equally challenging, and I wanted to share it with everybody so you could hear it and see what you think. Let's see here. There we go. Here it is. I've read it enough, I can do the Chinese. But here it is. Xiu Pu Sa Dao by Shifu. He wrote this for when this came about was early at Gold Mountain. It was like 1971 or 2, and it was collected for the 水晶会天路, water and mirror reflecting nature. That was, he might have written it earlier, but that's where it was printed. He goes like this: 菩萨梵语菩提萨埵，含义觉有情，为修诸利益众生行门，自觉觉他，自度度他，取机待人，此心觉悟，正大光明。凡一举一动，皆为救济众生，所以名觉有情也。Bodhisattva is a Sanskrit word which means an awakened sentient being. Bodhisattva is a person who cultivates all the methods of practice that aid and benefit beings. You pick your pronoun, it's she or he, doesn't matter. He awakens himself and awakens others, takes himself across and takes others across, extends himself to serve others. He uses kindness to deal with the world. He's righteous, magnanimous, and radiant. His every action is motivated by the purpose of saving sentient beings. Therefore, he is called an awakened one among living beings. Bring this back here. Okay, this next passage is quite something. 发菩提心，行菩萨道，贵在坚固永恒不变誓愿。拔精进铠，持般若剑，斩杀六根之狂贼，捉拿六世之阴鬼，烧除六尘之燃魔，精进六度之法天，灌溉六道之方圆，栽培万恒之华实，涵养不坏之金躯，成就难思之佳果。She resolves to attain Bodhi. She walks the path of the Bodhisattva. He values durable, constant, unchanging vows. He wears an armor of vigor and grasps a sword of prajna. He mows down the mad thieves of the 6 sense organs, seizes the yin ghosts of the 6 consciousnesses, and sweeps away the defiled demons of the 6 dusts. Vigorously tilling the Dharma fields of the 6 perfections, he irrigates the fragrant gardens of the 6 paths. He nurtures the flowers and fruits of the 10,000 practices. Tending the indestructible golden body, he accomplishes an inconceivable, excellent fruition. Okay? Lots of metaphors there, right? Lots of martial energy, right? Armor of vigor, sword of prajna, mowing down thieves, seizing ghosts, sweeping away demons. Then it's agricultural, tilling the Dharma fields, irrigating the gardens, nurturing flowers and fruits, tending the golden body, accomplishing an inconceivable, excellent fruition. Concludes, 万德远足，灵光主耀，八相成道，百界作佛，至此大江湖之能事毕。10,000 virtues are perfected and complete. His magic light shines alone. 灵光独耀. Don't understand that. With 8 hallmarks, he realizes the spiritual path. In 100 worlds, he becomes the Buddha. At this point, the great hero's work is done. That's the Bodhisattva Path essay. That's powerful writing, but what's going on? Look how short, it's just that much. And yet, this is the Bodhisattva path according to our teacher. And wow. So much in this. The standard, I think, is the 自觉觉他, 自度度他, 趋吉待人. It's awakens himself, awakens others, takes himself across, takes others across, extends himself to serve others, uses kindness to deal with the world. 慈心接物. Right? Well, there you go. That's it's the Bodhisattva Path essay. How about that? Do people, were you familiar with this? 你听过吗？读过吗？看过? Yeah, 很少. To people, I haven't. I know Dharma Master Heng Chi, was familiar with that and used that. Yeah. Okay, next week we get to the Tathagatas. That'll be exciting. Okay. Why does the Avatamsaka Sutra list 4 additional paramitas? Why is there this kind of distinction? So the Avatamsaka is has a custom of, it's called the teaching of totality. There's always 10 of everything. And it's, you say, well, who is the Avatamsaka? Well, it's the Buddha. The Buddha explained the Avatamsaka Sutra first, immediately after awakening, under the Bodhi tree. And they say that it's the raw milk straight from the cow. It's not been pasteurized for delicate stomachs. It's the whole story. Later, the 10 paramitas became the 6, but if you notice, if you read the Avatamsaka, there's always 10 of everything. So it is the Da Yuan Jing Zhi. It's the great, round, pure, perfect wisdom. So there you go. Why does Mahayana Buddhism, which teaches the emptiness of self and the emptiness of dharmas, lead not to more determined renunciation, but rather to the bodhicitta of liberating all beings? Let's see here. 为什么主张我空法空的大乘佛法没有灵相更坚决的处理，而是导向普度众生的发菩提心？阿弥陀佛。I'm not sure I completely understand your question, but you're always right if you, instead of going out into a teaching, you go back to your own mind. You go back to the potential of the human mind for full awakening. The emptiness, if you say, I'm going to empty out dharmas, that's pretty obvious. First we start with the self. I can't find the self in my meditation. It's just, the more I look, there's nothing to take. I don't exist in my teeth, I don't exist in my skin, I don't exist in my thoughts, my driver's license, my phone, none of those things are me. So you look carefully, you can't find the self. Then as your samadhi progresses, as your mind gets more calm, you extend that to say, yeah, I can't find myself in the world either. Dharmas have no self. So if you can do that, if you've emptied out both sides, what have you mastered? You've mastered wisdom. Zhi. Okay? You're halfway home. Because you also need fu. So the Buddha is said to be doubly perfected. Liangzu Zun. He's the one who has perfected both wisdom and blessings. Now, how do you get to the perfection of blessings? You have to make other people happy. If you say, I have emptied out self, I've emptied out dharmas, I'm now enlightened, you're not. Your nature has not discovered compassion. So look at Sudana. Mahayana Buddhism, Sudana, our hero in our lecture now, is the exemplar. He's the standard. And in his pilgrimage, we're not there yet in our sutra, he has to meet 21 female teachers. And not all, but by and large, those female teachers open up his heart to the suffering of living beings. Compassion. So, why does Mahayana Buddhism teach emptiness of self and dharmas? And that's not enough. It's because compassion is still waiting to be uncovered in your heart. Okay, from Tangshan, many relationships between men and women in this world turn into bonds of affliction and karmic entanglement. At first, dating is joyful, but after marriage, they become enemies, constantly fighting. Does this mean that worldly marriage and family life are fundamentally inverted and incorrect, a place where afflictions gather, and that only leaving home to practice the Dharma is the true path to liberation? Okay, ask for your compassionate guidance. I understand I take your sincere question, and yes, it's really hard, isn't it? If what you're proposing, that leaving home is the only true path, then we're in big trouble, aren't we? Because how many people leave home and succeed, stay monks or nuns? Not many. I would propose one way, one Buddhist way to look at the situation right now is to know about the Zheng Fa Shidai, Xiang Fa Shidai, Mo Fa Shidai. There are 3 ages the Buddha proposed, and then there's the end, when we come back. There is the time of the right Dharma, the proper Dharma, and the Buddha's in the world. There's the time of the Dharma image, which is when people still remember the Buddha but have to go outside. They don't experience it inside. And then there's the time of the Dharma's end, called the Kali Yuga, the Dharma ending age. And they say the Dharma ending age is strong in struggle. Dou zheng jian gu de shidai. This is a time of struggle. It's very hard now to stay together, not only as married couples, but as places of work, places of business, sports teams. When I was growing up, if you played for the Detroit Tigers, you played for the Detroit Tigers for decades. When a player was traded off my favorite team, Rocky Colavito and Harvey Keene played for the Detroit Tigers and the Cleveland Indians, and they got traded, and I was heartbroken, right? Mickey Mantle was a New York Yankee his whole career. Babe Ruth was a New York Yankee, not all his career, most of it, right? So now we have come to a time when it's now sports figures are free agents. They just go from team to team, just making millions of dollars. There is no loyalty. It's a difficult time to stay related in the Dharma ending age. Our attention span, this is one absolute thing you can verify yourself because of the influence of these devices. And after seemingly MTV, which came out when I was in high school, which was when musicians created video clips, right? You had you did a song with a TV spot, a video spot. With that practice, clips, each individual clip that went in to make a movie became shorter and shorter and shorter. And as a result, it changed the chemistry, our neurochemistry. And now, if you notice, pay attention the next time you see an advertisement, how brief the clips are. Just a glimpse, and then they're pasted together. I think this is not the cause, it's the symptom of this time when it's very hard to stay related. Furthermore, where in the world are we taught how to be a better husband or wife? Catholics, Roman Catholics, if you are a Catholic and you say you're going to get married in the church, they give you a course in how to stay married. The Buddhists don't, as far as I know. So I disagree with your conclusion. Yes, dating is joyful, but then after marriage, you become enemies. Who has taught you what to do when those feelings come up? Very hard to find instruction in how to stay married, constantly fighting. If we can instead, in this time, learn how to stay related, we are doing the Buddha's work. This is the Bodhisattva path, learning how to create lasting relationships. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. I think it's a function of the time. And people are not expecting to stay married anymore, just even when they go into it. So to say that somehow your conclusion, therefore, leaving home is the only solution, well, I would love to have more monks and nuns. But if we come into the Sangha planning to leave it, if it doesn't work out, that's the same mind, nothing different, right? So this is a difficult time. If someone gives food and in turn you offer it to the 3 jewels, do you get the merit even though you didn't pay for it? Okay. If you have expired but still edible and unspoiled food, can you give them to the homeless people on the street? Do you have merit? Okay. So I understand this is a kind of it's a real world question. This is a practical, real world question. So again, instead of asking me, go into your own heart and say, you have some food that people gave you. You would like, because you have food, you would like to offer it to the Sangha with your whole heart because monks can eat it, nuns can eat it. Is there goodness? Ask yourself. Absolutely. The Buddha is not there with a checklist going, oh, you didn't buy this food, sorry, no merit. Meaningless. No, it's not like that. So I understand it's a practical question, and I'm curious too, but I myself am not a Dharma lawyer in there, checking the relative merit. If your principle was true, you would have to grow it to be entirely yours. But then you didn't grow the food, God grew the food. So give the merit to God, right? The sun and the rain and the earth, and right? You go crazy with this stuff, trying to sort out who gets the real merit. The merit comes from your wish to take something that you value and share it. Do you value food that you paid $1 million for? If not, there's no merit. It's not a question of who paid for it. Now, if it's really secondhand food that I didn't understand this principle. I had the same question that you had. I knew it was good to make offerings. So what did I do? I was a penniless graduate student, cooking my own brown rice and boiled vegetables, green steamed vegetables. So what did I do? I bought a large watermelon, and I couldn't eat the whole thing, so I cut it in half, put half of it in my refrigerator, and took half to Gold Mountain. And that's not a complete offering. The right thing for me to have done would be to get a small watermelon for the monks and a small one for myself. But I actually cut the melon in half and eaten some of one half and took the rest because it's too much for me. For me, that was leftovers. And it was not, that's not the mind, right? So, yes, offerings should be pure, but it's not a question of the money. It's a question of purity. Questions about it, go to the Earth Store Sutra. The Earth Store Sutra talks about food that has fallen on the floor, it's not appropriate, that sort of thing. But it's not a question of did you pay for it. Okay, expired edible food, give it to homeless in the street, good thing to do. Don't waste food. Okay, Tianjin. A few days ago, resting, body couldn't move, consciousness entered another state, not a dream. Started reciting Buddha's name, the name Amitabha kept appearing on its own, and I listened. My body and everything outside belong to another world in this kind of state. What should I do in order to make progress? Let's see what the Chinese says. Okay. 前几天我休息的时候，身体又不能动了，意识进入另一个状态，不是做梦，意识可以控制。然后呢，我就念佛。我停下来的时候，还有阿弥陀佛的圣号，连续不断出现，我就听着。当时感觉身体和身外之物是另一个世界的事。在这样子的状态中，我应怎么样做才能进步 ？Okay, things that involve sleep or resting are often not clear because I have sometimes thought that I was not sleeping, but in fact I was asleep. And other times, even though I was awake, my mind was still not clear after sleep. So, were you sleeping, were you dreaming before the state happened? Not clear. However, you are aware that you were unable to move and that you entered another state. You were tracking the Buddha's name here. There is, in your question, I'm not clear whether this was a state with a Zhou Pan Cha Gui. There's something called a Dong Gua Gui. It's a kind of a ghost that likes to jump on cultivators and paralyze us. I've had the state, many people have had the state, paralysis ghosts. Perhaps that was it, that you couldn't move. However, the Buddha's name, you were still aware that you were reciting the Buddha's name, and that you were reciting the Buddha's name is a good thing. Apparently, you could move at that point. Typically, if a Ong Xing Gui, Dong Gua Gui, Yan Mei Gui, Zhou Pan Cha Gui, 4 names for the same thing. If they appear, recite the Buddha's name, recite Guan Yin's name, recite the Da Bei Zhou. Don't struggle, don't fight, don't be upset, don't be angry, don't be afraid. Just recite as you ordinarily do. The ghost will go. He'll leave you alone. They're there checking you out. If, on the other hand, you like that state, or if you get really angry or upset, the ghost can gather you into their team. But I've never really heard of anybody having that experience. Mostly, people say they came out of it, and it's strange. You feel paralyzed, but you can still recite the Buddha's name. Good for you. Okay? So, I think maybe that was the state. What to do to make progress? Do not attach to it. Cultivate the way all the same. If you can, when a ghost comes to test us and we don't move, we don't get upset, pass the test. That's good. Keep cultivating. It's not a sign of enlightenment. It's also nothing to be afraid of. Okay. Who to confess mistakes, broken precept, vow when you live as a refuge or as a recluse without having a good, wise friend available? Okay. You can, if you have the yellow book, the 万法上长黄色课诵本 万法上长早晚课仪规 the yellow ceremony book from City of 10,000 Buddhas, in the back is the Great Compassion Repentance, the Da Bei Chan. That's a really good practice that you can do yourself. At home, anywhere you are. I have bowed the Da Bei Chan, the Great Compassion Repentance, on my own a lot. I've also done other repentances, the Huayan Chan. I've bowed that. And it's an opportunity to immerse yourself in sutras, practices like bowing, and the Buddha's name, the Great Compassion Mantra, 21 times. Do that, and as much as you like. You don't have to feel like you're not a monk, so you can't bow that repentance. Then, when you have an opportunity, to find a monk or a nun close by, you can ask them about your situation with a broken precept. And that's why at City of 10,000 Buddhas, no single monk or nun takes all the refuge disciples, so that any Chujazhong, any left-home monastic from City of 10,000 Buddhas has the authority to listen to your story and give you guidance. Okay? Before, and plan it, do it next year when you get to CTDB or wherever you are, any place there's a monastery. That's what you can do. And then have the monk or nun give you advice what to do. Okay? Meanwhile, vow the repentance. Any minute that you spend vowing the Great Compassion Repentance is a minute well spent. How do you use prayer beads to recite the Buddha's name? I go like this. Namo Amitofo, Namo Amitofo, Namo Guan Shi Yin Pusa, Namo Guan Shi Yin Pusa, or Namo Dabe Guan Shi Yin Pusa, or Namo Guan Yin Pusa Joku Jo Nan, Namo Guan Shi Yin Pusa Joku Jo Nan. The words you use are up to you. One name, one bead. One name, one bead. When I get to the end, I turn them around and start over again, depending on how many rounds I want to recite, how many 108 I want to recite. Okay? I also, these beads have three of these. This bead set, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 28, 28. That gives me a counter so I know where I am. I used to walk across the UC Berkeley campus for years reciting the Great Compassion mantra on my beads because I wanted to keep my six senses close, not let them scatter out. The Berkeley campus is a zoo. It's like a circus, constantly, 3 rings going all the time. So I would take a small safety pin and as many mantras as I could, counting on my beads. Every time I finished a mantra, I would move the bead one more and I would hold on to them. When I got to my destination, the classroom or the meeting room or wherever, I would move the safety pin up to that place. And then on the bus, on the train, on BART, I would move it ahead that many. By the end of the day, I would hope I would have 108. And if I didn't, I would recite that many. So I recited 108 Great Compassion mantras every day, mostly while walking or while traveling on a train or on a bus. Okay. I'll do one more here. We're already over time. I'll get 2 more just so we can catch up, okay? Auspicious is from Anhui. Auspicious greetings. In the teachings of Master Hua came across a statement, people fail to become Buddhas because they put their effort into verbal chan. I'd like to ask the Dharma Master to explain what he meant by koto chan. So 我在听玄华上人在开示录，就是人不成佛，就是因为仅在口头上用功夫。Okay, this is this Shifu's Kaisher Lu were given at a specific time for a specific audience. It's not the case that a Dharma talk given to one group at one time is meant to apply universally to all people in all times. People can go wrong. Shifu shuo. Shifu said, yeah, he did to whom and when. That's what you have to ask to know if that teaching applies in your circumstance. What is koto-chan? Koto-chan is, we also talk about it as 文字般若. It's quoting the Buddha's language that he expressed in a sutra to represent your reality. So it's, to explain that in simple language, if you go into a restaurant and the maitre d' gives you the menu and you chew up the menu with the names of all the dishes that they serve on it, you will not be full. It's not the same as eating the food. Speaking, verbal chan, koto chan, prajna, verbal prajna, right? Literary prajna, and not cultivating doesn't get you any closer to Buddhahood. So you won't become a Buddha if all you can do is talk it. You have to actually walk it. You have to put the teachings into practice. Okay? I'm 50 years old this year. I believe in Buddhism and studying the Dharma for 10 years. Seen signs of the Dharma imminent age. Want to leave home, spread the Dharma, benefit sentient beings. I feel my aspiration is strong, my abilities are limited. As a layman living in China, what conditions must be fulfilled in order to receive ordination and become a monk? Okay, I can't speak for the current situation in China because those rules change, the age limit changes, the conditions change. That's been true for a long time. CTTB also has changing conditions. For men are different for women. You have to have, your health has to be strong. Leaving home is much easier if you're a younger person, younger body. Also, to leave home successfully, you have to have a flexible mind. You have to go through a period where you really challenge all of your beliefs, all of your attachments, all of your knowledge of who you are, the self. After 50 years, the self is strongly in place. It's just the way things go. So it's harder when you're 50 than if you're 20 or 21, right, obviously. When you can take a lot of pushing and a lot of ego-challenging circumstances without resisting and feeling, having an emotional reaction because somebody comes along and when you're the lowest person on the totem pole, as they say, the Buddha's Sangha is based on seniority. So someone who comes 5 minutes before you will always walk in front of you. And that's really difficult to accept when you have 50 years of being in the center of your life. So that's some of the reasons why it's there are age limits for leaving home. However, it's also a mistake for you to feel like you have to leave home before you can be an effective, valuable, meaningful Buddhist in the world. There are so many ways to get involved in the Dharma and teaching and propagating, turning the Dharma wheel, even though you still have your hair and you're not wearing a robe. So Master Hua gave us standards for being a left-home monk or nun, but he also modeled how to be and instructed how to be an effective at-home person. And so I would encourage you to find a group of friends as a layman and just use your efforts to help other people wake up. The fact that you have been studying the Dharma for 10 years is wonderful. That's incredible knowledge, opportunity and treasury of knowledge that you gained already. So share that with the people around you who have not met the Dharma at all. All right? So do not look lightly on your cultivation as a left-home person. At the same time, you can now make vows that in the future you can leave home. Go and get a picture of Master Hsuan Hua, bow to him 100 times a day, every day, and make a vow. Say, Shifu, I want to meet you earlier. That is a really wholesome way to guarantee that in the future the opportunity will come up. All right? Okay. We'll continue with more Q&A next time, next week. I'm going to dedicate merit tune in to the monks who are walking across the U.S. From Fort Worth, Texas to D.C. They hope to get to Washington, D.C. on February 11th. We'll see what kind of a reception they get. I hope all is peaceful until then and after. Please make a wish. As one and radiant with love, share fruits of peace, with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see, hands and hearts can find in giving unity. Dispel the darkness of our endless night, because our hearts are one. This world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. And before we go, I'm going to invite you to join me, bowing to Banyan Bodhisattva. Here you go. We're listening to the Dharma rain in the background, 1 week early. Next week we get the Dharma rain from the Dust Come Ones. Here we go, out of our teacher. See you all next week. Ami Tofo, everybody. Thanks for joining. Be with you again next week for more of the Avatamsaka.